Welcome back to Compleat Magic. This is Evan, and today we're going to be talking about a pretty cool Transformer commander you probably never heard of. And stick around to the end because the GOAT card for this deck is pretty spicy. Let's get into it. Alright, let's talk about the commander itself, Flamewar Brash Veteran. So this is a legendary artifact creature robot. Costs 1 colorless, a black and a red, and has more than meets the eye. So you can cast this card converted for just a black and a red. We'll show the other side in a second. But it has the ability to sacrifice another artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on Flamewar, and convert it. You can only do this as a sorcery. And then if you pay 1 generic, you can discard your hand and put all exiled cards you own with intel counters on them into your hand. So we're going to see how you get intel counters, because the flip side is Flamewar Streetwise Operative, which is a vehicle, and it has living metal. So as long as it's your turn, this vehicle is also a creature. It's a 2/1 with menace and death touch. When it deals combat damage to a player, exile that many cards from the top of your library face down and put an intel counter on each of them, and then you convert it. So kind of what you're trying to do with this deck is get to Flamewar, deal damage to people's face, get the flip cards over and put intel counters on them, and then discard your hand and put all those cards in your hand. So we got ways to benefit from discard and a little bit of madness built in. So let's go over some of the key cards from the first mechanic, which is helping us discard. So we're really kind of leaning hard into the whole discard theme because our commander has a feature that forces us to discard. Why not just discard some more? So we got the Rakdos Legend Anji Falconwrath, which is a 1/3 with haste. Tap to discard a card and draw a card. And then whenever you discard a card that has madness, untap Anji, which is important because we got a few madness cards in here. We also got this card, I'm not going to try and pronounce it, which as long as you've discarded a card, you only have to pay a black or a red to cast it. But when it comes into the battlefield, you can search your card for Underworld Cookbook, which is a great card for this deck. And you can sack 2 foods and just make a creature deal 6 damage to itself, which is kind of cool. I guess it like eats itself to death. And then big score, this is kind of how we're going to get some extra card draw, is always have some sort of discard feature built in. So this one, you just got to discard a card in addition, you get draw 2 and make 2 treasures. Burning Inquiry, each player draws 3 and then discards 3 at random, which sucks for everybody else, but for us, it's not going to suck as much. Cabal Initiate, you can discard a card for free at instant speed, and this kind of free discard outlet is really powerful, kind of like free sack outlets in Aristocrat deck. It also gets +1/+2, as long as there's more than 7 cards in your graveyard, which there probably will be pretty quickly. Change of Fortune, you can just refill your whole hand. That's pretty cool. And also if you use Flamewar's ability where you discard your hand and put all these intel cards in your hand, you can actually do Change of Fortune after that and just get a ton of cards. Real spicy. Faithless Looting, you know it, you love it. Fire Fright Mage, this is another thing that lets you discard kind of over and over, and also gives your guy unblockable, except for artifact or red creatures, but I'm sure you can find somebody to hit with Flamewar, and then also lets you discard something, get some extra value. Really, really good card for this deck. You're gonna wanna see it. And then Hellmongrel, which is the first madness card we're seeing. Also a free discard outlet to pump it up, and you can play it for 2 and a black for its madness cost. So for those of you guys that aren't familiar, madness says if you discard this card, you discard it into exile, and then when you do, you can cast it for its madness cost or just put it in your graveyard. So pretty awesome mechanic. Key of the City, another fantastic card for this deck, because tap it to discard a card and make a creature unblockable, and you'll probably want to pick your commander. So you can get in for some damage and get some free exile cards with intel counters. Also help you draw cards if you need it. Magus of the Wheel lets you wheel your own hand, or everybody wheels their hand, and get some sweet discard. Throw a Possibility, it's like Faithless Looting, another way to discard and draw. And then Unexpected Windfall, another thing where we're getting lots of value from the discard, drawing and making treasure tokens. So that was a lot with the discard section. We have 1 in this section for discard fodder, and that's Squee. He's just too good not to include in this deck, because if you need to discard something with one of your free discard outlets, you can just discard Squee, get some value, and it'll just come back. Pretty incredible. So this next section is called Discard Payoff. You want to be getting extra value from discarding. So all of these permanents are going to help us when we discard. So starting with Archfiend, a 5/4 flyer for 5 to start out with. Whenever you cycle or discard another card, you can put a -1/-1 counter on a creature, on each creature your opponents control, which is insane because you're gonna be discarding so much you're gonna kill everything. Bone Miser, this is one of probably the two just OP discard payoff cards. So when you discard a creature card, you make a 2/2 zombie. Discard a land, you add 2 black, and when you discard a non-creature, non-land card, you draw a card. You're gonna get so much value from this just for doing what you wanna do. Braylon, whenever you discard, he does 1 damage to each opponent, and you put a +1/+1 counter on him. Containment Construct, it's a 2/1 construct. Whenever you discard a card, you may exile that card from your graveyard, and if you do, you may play that card this turn. So you can basically discard something and then still be able to play it that turn if it doesn't have madness, or if it's a land, you can play that land from exile. Currency Converter, kind of similar. Exile card when you discard, but you have to tap it to put it from exile into your graveyard, but then you get to either make a treasure or a 2/2 black rogue, depending on if it's a land or a non-land. And then it can also help you by just drawing and discarding. So this kind of does it all. Glinthorn Buccaneer, he's a hasty guy, and whenever you discard, you're just going to ping everybody for 1, which could honestly kill him. This is literally could be a win con, and has a built-in discard ability. Surly Badger Soar, card's OP. Whenever you discard a creature card, put a counter on them. Whenever you discard a land, make a treasure. Whenever you discard a non-creature, non-land, it fights somebody. So you can take things out, pump it up, and you can get treasures for getting rid of all the lands in your hand. It's incredible. So that's the discard payoff section. Next up is Madness payoff. We haven't gotten to Madness yet, but obviously we got Angie. It's gonna be a good payoff. Chainer, another free discard outlet. So basically you can discard a Madness card, and then whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if you didn't cast it, it gains haste. So any Madness creature that you have, it's going to be coming out of exile, and then it's going to have haste now because of Chainer. So that's really good synergy there. Keeper of Secrets, another hasty creature, 6/4, first strike. That's pretty cool. But it has this thing called Symphony of Pain. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, Keeper of Secrets deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to target opponent. So whenever you cast your Madness spells, or from Currency Converter or Containment, whatever, you're going to be dealing damage to people, and you're probably going to kill them. So next up, Treasures. We already went over these two. Big score, unexpected windfall. Couple way to get treasures, because one thing we didn't talk about too much is with the commander, you actually need something to sack. So if you are trying to get back over to Flamewar to actually deal damage and get exiled cards with intel counters, you have to sacrifice another artifact, and that puts a counter on Flamewar and converts it. So you got to have some sort of artifact laying around to sacrifice, and so having a couple treasures is not the worst option. And so next up, we got lands, 34, nothing too crazy. Cabal Pit and Barbarian Ring have threshold, and this one deals 2 damage if you sack it. Cabal Pit, target creature gets -2/-2. So you're gonna have threshold all the time. Bajuka Bog to exile someone's graveyard. Rogue's Passage to help your commander get through in a pinch. You have to tap 5 lands, but you can make it happen. And then Takenuma if you need to bring something back out of the graveyard. So next up, we got a couple black draw cards that everybody loves. Black Market Connection is going to give you a treasure, which obviously you can use to flip Flamewar. And Phyrexian Arena is going to get you an extra card each turn. And then we got Evasion. So you want to be hitting with your commander. It only works if you get combat damage in, and it's a 2/1 with Menace and Death Touch, which will keep some people from blocking you, but you need more surefire ways to get through. So Demoralize is a 3-drop instant. Each creature can't be blocked by this turn except by 2 or more creatures, so essentially Menace. But its threshold is creatures can't block this turn. You're probably gonna have threshold pretty easily, and it's just gonna make your commander and other creatures unblockable for a turn. Pretty cool. Distempered Blood, 2-drop. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains trample, or you can Madness cost it for 1 red. Give your commander +2/+2 and trample. That'll probably get through. We already went over Firefright Mage. Timur Battle Rage, you can give him double strike, and then if you have a creature with power 4 or greater, also gets trample. So giving your commander trample and double strike will probably get it through, and Whirling Strike +2/+0 first strike trample. Just really cheap ways to get your commander through and probably catch someone by surprise. With Death Touch, First strike and trample is going to go a long way, especially double strike. So finally, we got to the Madness card. We got 18 of them. We're really trying to get some good payoff off discarding and make discarding into a positive thing. So we got Abandoned Reason, which is gonna pump up some creatures, give them first strike. Angie's Ravager, it's gotta attack each turn, and when it does attack, discard your hand and then draw 3 cards. So we're probably not gonna be keeping a ton of cards in our hand because we're gonna be trying to get them off the intel counters. So this is a good way to just dump your hand, get some card draw, and get some discard payoff. Archfiend of Spite. Whenever a source an opponent controls deals damage to it, that source's controller loses that much life unless they sacrifice that many permanent. This is pretty spicy. People aren't going to want to block it. It's a 6/6 flyer, and you can cast it for 5 with its Madness cost. Big Game Hunter is sick. It's just a 1/1 that you can cast for 1 with Madness. And when it enters the battlefield, destroys a creature, power 4 or greater. Call of Netherworld. It's actually a 0-drop with Madness, which is always fun. And you can return a black creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So that's nice because we got a decent amount of black creatures. Curse of Fool's Wisdom. Whenever enchanted player draws a card, they lose 2 life and you gain 2 life. So you can play this for 4 with Madness and basically just start draining people for drawing cards, which everybody loves drawing cards. They're probably gonna hate you. Dark Withering, cast it for 1 to just destroy a non-black creature. That's really powerful at instant speed. We already went over Distemper of the Blood, great card. Gorgon Recluse, cast it for 2, and whenever it blocks or becomes blocked by a non-black creature, destroy it. So it's got Death Touch for non-black creatures, a little 2/4. Grave Scrabbler, cast it for 2 for Madness, and if you cast it for its Madness cost, you can basically treat it like a recursion and bring a creature card back from your graveyard to your hand. We went over Hellmongrel, Kitchen Imp, a 2/2 flying creature with haste that you can cast for 1. That's what I'm talking about with the discard payoff. That's pretty strong. Muckdrub, cast it for 3. It's got flash, and when it enters the battlefield, you can change the target of target spell that targets only a single creature, but change it to Muckdrub. So basically, Muckdrub can take 1 for the team and just get yeeted in the face. But you might be able to save your commander or something else cool. Necrogoyf, it's a 5-drop that you can cast for 3. Its power is equal to number of all creatures in all graveyards. So it's probably gonna be pretty big. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player discards a card. It's really gonna hurt everybody else, but we're gonna love it. Shadow of the Grave, 2-drop instant. Return to your hand all cards in your graveyard that you cycled or discarded this turn. This is extremely strong in this deck because you can have these big turns where you discard 5 cards, 10 cards, and then just bring them all back. Super, super strong. Shadowgrange, Archfiend. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacks a creature with the greatest power amongst creatures they control. You gain life equal to all the greatest power. You gain life equal to the greatest power among creatures sacrificed this way. A little confusing, but if they have an 8-drop, you'll gain 8 life. And you can cast it for 3 with its Madness cost. You have to pay 8 life. So a little tricky there, but it's an 8/4 for 3. That's pretty good and controls the board. Terminal Agony, 2-drop. Destroy target creature. Enough said. Voldaren Pariah, cast it for 3 black. It's a 3/3 flyer. And you can sack 3 other creatures to transform it into Abolisher of the Bloodline. That's right, we got an Eldrazi in this deck. 6/5 flyer, and then when it transforms into this, target opponent sacrifices 3 creatures. So this can really control the board, give you a big beater to hopefully close out the game. And then we got a protection here. Slowbad is one of the best cards in this deck because you're probably going to have some sort of artifact laying around, and you can sacrifice it to give artifact indestructible, and your commander is an artifact. So this is extremely helpful to keep your commander around, keep him from getting destroyed or taking lethal damage. And then Lightning Greaves, of course, it's a staple. You'll be able to give your commander haste if it's on its Flamewar side, so you can get in for some intel counters, and also Shroud, so you can protect your commander. And then got a little bit of ramp, your normal stuff, Arcane Signet, Cabal Ritual, and Dark Ritual, so you can just have some explosive turns. And then the normal stuff, Soul Ring, Talisman of Indulgence, Rakdos Signet, Mindstone, and Fellwar Stone. And the removal, we've talked about most of this, or a good bit. Big Game Hunter is a really good one. So is Dark Withering and Terminal Agony, because they all have Madness. We also got Blasphemous Act to just nuke everything. Vandal Blast to just take care of all the pesky artifacts on the board. And then Chaos Warp can help take care of any permanent, which is going to be nice because in these colors there's not a whole lot of enchantment removal, and then Feed the Swarm because of its ability to destroy enchantments makes it pretty useful. And then one more category is sack fodder. So these are things that we want to sacrifice when we want to flip our commander. Ichor Wellspring's gonna draw us a card when it enters and leaves, which is really nice. And Loyal Apprentice, it's gonna make a 1/1 flying Thopter at the beginning of your combat every turn, and with haste, so you can either swing with it or sacrifice it. Nimble Right Schematic, when it enters the battlefield, it's going to make a 1/1 construct. Also going to make a 1/1 construct when it leaves. So all in all, you'll have 3 artifact, really helpful. Prized Statue does the same thing, but with treasures. So this is nice, helps ramp you a little bit. Also gives you some things to sacrifice. And Servo Schematic, when it enters the battlefield or is put in the graveyard, make a 1/1 servo. So once again, you get a 3-for-1, 3 things to sack with just a 2-drop. So yeah, that's the deck. We've gone over everything except the GOAT card, the best card of the deck, which we're about to go over. And that card is none other than the Underworld Cookbook. So this is a 1-drop artifact that you can tap to discard a card and make a food token. And food tokens usually are terrible, but you can sacrifice it to your commander, and also this card lets you discard every single turn. And then for the heck of it, you can pay for, tap and sacrifice Underworld Cookbook and return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So incredibly helpful. You can use it later to bring back a really awesome creature that got killed, and you can help yourself discard every turn and make some sack fodder for your commander to flip. So Underworld Cookbook, you are the GOAT and you are the best card in the deck. So let us know in the comments what you think about this deck. The deck tech is in the description of the video. Go check it out. I think it's really fun to play. It's kind of using a different mechanic than you'd normally use, probably. But yeah, go check it out and let us know what you think. See you next time.